Right now, at this exact moment, millions of people over 60 are sleeping peacefully, completely unaware that inside their bodies something is quietly destroying their heart, their kidneys, and their brain. What I'm about to tell you tonight, most doctors will never bring up during your appointment. Not because they don't care, but because the system they work inside was never designed to catch this. And the longer it stays hidden, the more damage it does. Tonight, that changes. I'm Dr. Adam Carter. I spent over 2 decades performing open-heart surgery, and what I saw on that operating table made it impossible to stay silent. They aren't telling you that for more than half of adults over 65, blood pressure becomes a nocturnal predator, rising dangerously while you sleep, leaving no footprints, no warnings, and no symptoms. Your morning reading looks fine. Your doctor smiles. You go home, and the damage keeps happening. Stay with me, because what you learn in the next few minutes could be the most important thing you've heard all year. My name is Dr. Adam Carter, and I left a 22-year career inside the system until I couldn't stay silent anymore. I've stood in operating rooms and repaired the wreckage that silent, undetected nighttime blood pressure leaves behind. Arteries destroyed, hearts enlarged, kidneys failing, and in the majority of those cases, the patient's last recorded blood pressure reading, the one sitting in their medical file, was completely normal. The $89 billion medical industry is built around a 30-second snapshot of your health, one blood pressure reading, once every few months, and that snapshot determines your entire treatment plan. But here's what that snapshot will never, ever show you. What happens to your cardiovascular system while you sleep? That is the truth I am here to tell you, and nobody profits from you knowing it. Let me show you what's actually happening inside your body, not in medical jargon, but in plain physical reality you can see and feel. Think of your cardiovascular system as a network of garden hoses running through your house. When you're young, those hoses are brand new, supple, flexible, responsive. Water flows through them smoothly, and when the pressure drops at night, the hoses relax, they recover, they reset for the next day. Now imagine those same hoses after 30 or 40 years. They've become stiff, brittle, the rubber has hardened. When pressure builds up, they don't flex, they resist. And when the pressure is supposed to drop at night, they can't follow the signal anymore. They've lost the elasticity that made the drop possible. That is exactly what happens to your arteries after 60. We call it arterial stiffness, and it is one of the most important and least discussed developments in cardiovascular aging. Now, add another layer to that picture. Imagine the water inside those hoses isn't clean and clear. It's become thicker over the years, slightly viscous, like thin honey. Damaged cholesterol particles, what we call oxidized LDL, have made the fluid itself more inflammatory, more reactive. And as it pushes through those stiff hoses night after night, it scrapes and scars the inner walls with every pass. Your autonomic nervous system, the automatic control panel that manages your heart rate, your breathing, and yes, your blood pressure while you sleep, also begins to lose its precision after 60. Think of it like an old factory machine. The gears still turn, but the calibration has drifted, the signals weaker, the timing off. Under normal, healthy conditions, something remarkable happens every single night while you sleep. Your blood pressure drops by 10 to 20%. We call this the dipping pattern. It is not optional. It is your body's nightly maintenance window, the hours when your heart repairs micro-damage, your blood vessels recover their tone, your kidneys filter and reset. Every single one of these repair processes depends entirely on that pressure drop. But for over 50% of adults over the age of 65, that dip stops happening. The pressure holds steady, or worse, it actually climbs. Those people are called non-dippers. And some of them are reverse dippers. Their pressure at 3 a.m. is higher than it ever was during the busiest part of their day. The stiff hoses keep pumping, the thick fluid keeps scraping, the damaged walls keep accumulating scar tissue, and the person sleeping in that bed feels absolutely nothing until the threshold is crossed and the body can no longer compensate. That threshold, for too many people, arrives as a stroke or a heart attack with no prior warning. And when I look back at the data, the signs were there. In the numbers, nobody was collecting. During the hours, nobody was measuring. I want to tell you about a patient I'll call David. David was 68 years old, retired high school history teacher, a man who took better care of himself than most people I've treated. He walked 3 miles every morning without fail. He had given up red meat years earlier. He took his blood pressure medication religiously at 7 a.m., same time, every day. He brought a prepared list of questions to every single medical appointment. By every measurement available to his doctors, David was doing everything right. His office blood pressure readings were excellent, 122/76. His cholesterol panel was within normal range. His doctor genuinely and appropriately told him he was in great shape for his age. David came to me not because he was sick, but because his wife had noticed something. She told me he had been waking up most mornings looking exhausted, despite sleeping a full 8 hours. She said his face looked puffy in the morning in a way it hadn't before, and he had been having occasional headaches in the first hour after waking, headaches he described as a dull pressure behind the eyes that faded by mid-morning. He had mentioned the morning headaches to his previous doctor. He was told it was probably dehydration or sleep position. Nobody ordered a 24-hour monitor. I ordered one. The results came back, and I still think about that day. David's daytime readings were everything his file suggested: calm, controlled, well-managed. Then the sun went down. By midnight, as David slept soundly, his systolic pressure had climbed to 158. By 2 a.m., it peaked at 171/106. A hypertensive crisis every single night in a man whose chart said he was perfectly controlled. The explanation was mechanical and entirely predictable once you know what to look for. His medication, taken at 7 a.m., had lost the majority of its protective effect by the time his body needed it most. His cortisol and adrenaline were spiking in the early hours of the morning instead of staying suppressed. And his brief, fragmented awakenings, ones he didn't even remember having, were triggering small but powerful surges in his sympathetic nervous system, the same system that raises your blood pressure when you're startled or afraid. Every night, like clockwork. We found microalbumin in his urine, a protein that leaks from kidneys quietly under sustained pressure stress. His kidneys had been under siege for an unknown number of years. We found elevated oxidized LDL, damaged cholesterol particles that had been embedding themselves in his arterial walls. 2 small changes, shifting his medication to bedtime after consulting with his physician and removing the licorice root evening tea his wife had been preparing for him for years, believing it was calming and heart-healthy, resulted in a dramatically different nighttime pressure profile within 6 weeks. The morning headaches stopped, the fatigue lifted. His wife said he looked like himself again. I think about David because he did everything right. He just didn't know what questions to ask, because nobody had ever told him there were questions to ask. That is the failure I cannot accept, and that is why I'm talking to you right now. Before I give you the exact steps, I need to ask you something. If this information matters to you, if you believe that people over 60 deserve to know what's happening to their hearts while they sleep, then hit that like button right now, not for the algorithm, as a vote for the truth. as a statement that says the 30-second office reading is not enough and we are not going to accept it. And subscribe to this channel because what we're doing here is building a community of informed, empowered seniors who walk into their doctor's offices armed with the right questions, and that, based on decades of clinical evidence, genuinely saves lives. Not metaphorically, actually. Now, let's talk about what you can do, starting tonight. These are not experimental theories. These are clinically validated, zero-cost, immediately actionable steps grounded in physiology and circadian science. Let's go through each one carefully. Step 1. The Evening Tea Audit. Do this tonight. Go to your kitchen right now or the moment this video ends and read every label on every tea in your cabinet. You are looking for one specific ingredient, licorice root. It also hides under the names glycyrrhizae, sweet root, or buried inside the phrase natural flavoring in herbal blend teas. Many people over 60 drink these teas before bed specifically because they believe they're calming and heart healthy. Here is the biology you need to understand. Licorice root contains a compound called glycyrrhizin. Glycyrrhizin blocks an enzyme in your kidneys responsible for inactivating cortisol. When that enzyme is suppressed, cortisol builds up in your bloodstream during the night. Elevated cortisol is a direct and potent trigger for elevated blood pressure. It is a hormonal override, pure endocrine physics. If you find licorice root in your evening tea, that tea moves to the morning or out of the house entirely. That one change alone has measurably altered nighttime blood pressure profiles in patients I have worked with. Step 2. The alcohol timing shift, the 3 AM rebound. I am not here to tell you that a glass of wine with dinner is going to destroy you. That is not the message. The message is about timing and circadian rhythm and understanding what alcohol actually does inside your body after 60, not what it feels like in the first hour. Here is the physiological sequence. The initial effect of alcohol is sedative. Your blood pressure does drop slightly in the first 60 to 90 minutes. That part is real. That is the part people experience and why it feels relaxing. But 3 to 4 hours later, your sympathetic nervous system launches a biochemical correction, an overcorrection. Cortisol surges, adrenaline rises. Your blood pressure can reach its highest point of the entire 24-hour cycle at 3 a.m. We call this the rebound effect. And after 60, when your autonomic regulation is already less precise, the rebound is sharper and more sustained. The solution is not elimination for most people, it is timing. Move your evening drink to dinner, not the hour before sleep. Creating a 3 to 4 hour buffer between your last drink and your bedtime dramatically reduces the magnitude of the overnight rebound. That is pure circadian biology. No medication required, just timing. Step 3. Write these 3 words down right now. Take out a piece of paper. Write down ABPM, Microalbumin, Oxidized LDL. Fold that paper and put it with your insurance card. That is your complete agenda for your next doctor's appointment. Here is why each one matters. ABPM, ambulatory blood pressure monitoring, is a small cuff you wear for 24 hours while living your normal life. It takes automatic readings every 30 minutes, day and night. It is the only test that shows you what your blood pressure is doing during those 8 hours that no office visit will ever capture. It identifies non-dipping patterns. It is the gold standard. It is widely available, and most people over 65 have never worn one because nobody ordered it. Urine microalbumin detects tiny amounts of a protein leaking from your kidneys under sustained pressure stress, appearing years before your standard kidney function tests show any decline. It is an early warning signal while you still have time to change the course. Cheap, simple, and almost never ordered unprompted. Oxidized LDL is not on a standard cholesterol panel. It measures the damaged, inflammatory version of LDL cholesterol, the kind that has been chemically altered by free radicals and embeds into arterial walls like rust into metal. Sustained nighttime hypertension accelerates this process directly. This marker tells you what your arterial walls are experiencing in real time. 3 tests. Affordable, available. They will show you what no standard checkup was ever designed to see. And 1 bonus conversation worth having with your doctor. Ask about bedtime medication timing. A landmark trial called the Hygieia Chronotherapy Study, 20,000 patients over 6 years, found that patients taking the same blood pressure medication at bedtime rather than morning showed nearly 50% lower rates of heart attack, stroke, and cardiovascular death. Same drug, same dose, different timing, dramatically different outcomes. Do not change your own medication schedule without talking to your doctor first. Some medications, particularly diuretics, should not be taken at night. But the conversation is worth having. 1 question, 30 seconds. It could change everything. 1 more thing before we close, and I want you to hear this clearly because this is not folklore, this is pharmacology. Hibiscus sabdariffa, the dried flowers used to brew deep red hibiscus tea, contains a class of molecules called anthocyanins. These are the same compounds responsible for the color of blueberries and pomegranates. They are potent antioxidants that neutralize the free radicals responsible for oxidizing your LDL. But hibiscus does something else. It inhibits ACE, the angiotensin-converting enzyme, the same enzyme targeted by one of the most widely prescribed classes of blood pressure medication in the world. Multiple independent clinical trials have shown reductions of 8 to 14 millimeters systolic in patients with mild to moderate hypertension who consumed hibiscus tea daily. That is clinically meaningful. Preparation matters. Use 10 grams of actual dried hibiscus flowers, not tea bags, not blends. Steep in 90-degree water for 10 to 15 full minutes. The brew should be deep burgundy, almost like dark red wine. If it looks pale pink, it is not strong enough. 3 cups per day is the studied dose. The most important cup is the one taken 1 to 2 hours before bed. That is the timing window that most directly influences what happens to your nighttime pressure. If you are already on blood pressure medication, tell your doctor before adding hibiscus. The effects can be additive. That is not a reason to avoid it. It's a reason to have a conversation first. You now have something concrete. A test for tonight, a list for your next appointment, a conversation worth starting with your physician. Walk in prepared because that changes the entire dynamic of your care. Take care of your heart. It has never taken a single second off in your entire life. It deserves your full attention. Now, before you go, I need to plant a seed. Next week, I'm doing a video that is going to genuinely shock many of you. I'm going to walk through 5 foods that are universally marketed as heart-healthy for seniors, foods your doctor may have told you to eat more of, foods that are on the packaging of every so-called wellness product in your grocery store, and at least one of them is silently accelerating the exact same arterial damage we discussed today. You will not believe number 3. I've had patients look at me with complete disbelief when I show them the research. Trust me, you want to see this one. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Until then, take exceptional care of yourself and of every person over 60 that you love.